Hello, I am Ross Tweddell from Cultaholic Wrestling, joined by Andrew Hodkinson, also from Cultaholic Wrestling. And where does Sami Zayn go from here, Andrew? How are your emotions after the most emotional conclusion to a WWE PLE?
Still reeling. I'm still reeling, brother. It was honestly one of the greatest payoffs I think I've ever seen to a story. Well, I mean, it was leading up to what we got to. The payoff there of Sami finally being ousted from the Bloodline, I think, was phenomenal. I think everything leading up to this moment has been fantastic. Just the slow burn of this whole thing. And I know a lot of people in the moment might have been really disappointed with The Rock not turning up at the end of the show. However, I think it lent itself really well to what happened, almost in the sense that The Rock's not there to make the save. The Rock's not coming out to make the save. It is now all down to Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens.
I love how open-ended it is still now as we're sat here on Monday morning. What the hell day is it? It's Monday morning. Yes, it is. Because we could still have The Rock down the line between now and WrestleMania come back and say to Roman Reigns, hey there, Roman, I rank above thee in the tree of the tribal chiefs. I'm on a slightly higher branch. I'll sort this out and we'll have a match at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Also, I think we've left it open-ended enough that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens could pull it around somehow. As weird as it sounds after seeing Kevin Owens murdered, as brutally as he was at the end of the show, they could also pull it round and factor in that Paul Heyman 3 steps ahead thing that we had hammered home, and that has stayed with me since, I don't know when it was even mentioned the first time, but ever since it has been, it's been like, oh, he's mentioned that to him. Yeah. Paul Heyman said, Carney, he's a dirty boy. He is though, isn't he?
He is.
They could pull it around and then Sami could go, well, I've always been 3 steps ahead. I love how, whatever way we're going, also Jey Uso as well. He could, he's officially left the Bloodline as we sat here on Monday morning. He confirmed last night on Instagram. His role is very much open-ended as well.
Yeah, it really, really is. And again, that is why this storyline, there's so many cogs turning in this whole thing. And even if we think it's going one way, it seems to go another way. Yeah. We can sit here and speculate, as we always do. That's like our job, is to sit here and sometimes speculate as to where these things go. And we will come up sometimes with some of the most elaborate things going on the planet. But then, ultimately, it's been some of the most simpler things that have played out. And yet, it's still been a surprise no matter what. As you've been saying before, with this whole Sami Zayn perhaps being 3 steps ahead and whatnot, like, there's a mystique behind it. The way that Sami tells stories just through like his eyes and through his mouth movements, his face movements. Every single thing about this whole entire storyline has been excellently played out. Like, Sami has done such a good job, as well as everybody else in the Bloodline so far.
I mean, his role at the Rumble was obviously the crucial one, because that's what the entire term was built around. But he did it so wonderfully well as well, because we had the little bit in the kickoff show where Roman basically said, you're basically not going to be in the men's Royal Rumble match. But he didn't say it overtly, but that's what he was inferring, because you're going to have to stay by my hip after what you did on SmackDown, turning on when I say, don't you dare turn up there, young man. So that in that moment there, Sami was very much a recluse, like, yes sir, all that sort of stuff. Then we get to the match itself, and that's where the 3 steps ahead thing was coming in for me, because when it came to Roman Reigns shouting at Sami Zayn, hand me a chair now, Sami was like, are you sure you want me to give you a chair, because you did say earlier you don't want me to do anything. So there is he playing silly buggers? Is he got Roman Reigns around his little finger? It's still not clear at this point, is it? On top of that though, Andrew, sorry to cut you off there.
No, it's all right.
We had the bit with the chair itself. Sami goes looking for this chair, but he's a bit like, I better check every single corner of the ringside area before Paul Heyman said, it's under there, you silly man, get it now. And even when he had it, he was a bit like, which gave Kevin Owens enough time to recover. Ultimately, it didn't matter, but it was that little detail of like giving Kevin Owens that time to recover. It was during the contract signing as well. Sami Zayn, he didn't come out until Kevin Owens had put Roman Reigns through the announce table. Yeah. So it as we're sat here on Monday after the Royal Rumble, everything is so open-ended. It's fantastic.
It really, really is. And if you were watching the event as well, as we noticed when we watched live, me and Adam watched live, obviously, on YouTube. And when Sami came out, he had a little slit like in the top of his t-shirt.
Because he's jacked.
Because he's jacked. But no, it was ultimately it was there because later on in that segment, Roman did just rip the t-shirt off Sami. But throughout this whole, and this is what I really enjoy about the whole storyline in general, is that throughout the whole entire match, we were like, he's got a shirt on underneath that shirt. He's going to reveal something. Is he wearing a Kevin Owens shirt? Are we going to get a moment where Kevin Owens is down on the outside? And it looked like this was going to happen as well. Kevin Owens was down on the outside and it was like clamoring towards Sami and like sort of trying to grab him to like pull himself up, and we're like, he's going to grab the t-shirt, pull it off, and then there'll be like a Kevin Owens t-shirt under there or something, like Kevin Owens turning up to the arena in the Sami Zayn Forever t-shirt. And it was little things like that make you think something's coming. And then as I mentioned earlier, it's sometimes the most simplest things that have the most effect on you as well when they finally play out. And every single thing about that did play out, maybe it was very, very predictable for some people.
It was logical as well, though.
It was logical.
Again, you can't have convoluted... I mean, we're guilty of that on the pictures
videos,
videos,
of course we are.
Of doing convoluted stuff. But at the Royal Rumble, I thought the underlying message, apart from Bray Wyatt stuff, is that everything was sort of logical. Like the entrance in the Rumble, we had tag teams being in the ring at the same time and beating up the opponents together because that's the logical thing to do, that tag teams would do. That bled over into the Sami Zayn angle at the end of the night, I thought. But it was also going back to Sami's performance again, we had the little bit where you're like, is he playing silly buggers with Roman Reigns? But then when the final chair shot happened, the sort of conflicting emotions on his face of like, do I do this? Is this my moment? Is it my moment? Perfect moment with you. Martina McCutcheon there on a wrestling video in 2023, whatever. But then we had that, it's all in the eyes, isn't it? And then we had the little bit when he looks to the Usos, who obviously he knows he's so close to, especially Jay, after what they've been through. And he's just like, And it was Jimmy as well, who obviously went there first, because it's going to be... I'm going to go for it now. This entire storyline has been about Jey Uso and Sami Zayn.
I think
not
so too.
Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. I think the way that Jey, because obviously, funnily enough, for everybody involved, the next pay-per-view is Elimination Chamber, and it is taking place in Montreal, which Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn both have natural ties to, being from that neck of the woods and all that sort of stuff. So it sets up the wonderful possibility for Sami Zayn to challenge Roman Reigns in Montreal, have that home crowd side, that home side crowd on his side, that home crowd on his side. Yes, I got there in the end. And for potentially Kevin Owens to come out there and call some silly buggers on Sami Zayn's side, or have Jey Uso, who is sat here now, as we said earlier, is officially out the bloodline, have him come back and reconcile with Roman Reigns and put all of the heat on Jey Uso, therefore making what many people think the Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens versus the Usos tag team match make all the sense in the world, because I think that's a large sticking point for people as we're sat here today. They've obviously done that angle at the end of the Rumble, which is built Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns as the match heading into WrestleMania, no matter what Cody Rhodes did in the men's Rumble. That's the match that I think a large proportion of the watching audience want to see now, but they do have that chance for the tag team match to make arguably a bit more sense.
You're right, and you're absolutely right in that as well, because I think, as you just said, sort of going forward, everything that happened in the Royal Rumble with Roman Reigns, Sami hitting Roman Reigns specifically, sort of makes, I think, a lot of us believe that is going to be the match going forward, maybe at WrestleMania. But with the hurdle of the Elimination Chamber sort of in the road to WrestleMania there, it does lead to what I think for a lot of people, it almost feels like going for the tag team titles almost isn't good enough. But
I've got a point there, just to cut you off.
I was gonna have a point.
Go on,
as well.
you have a point. No, you have a point.
As you were mentioning, with the Jey Uso stuff, you have the potential, as you were saying, to put all the heat on Jey Uso and the Usos leading into WrestleMania. Now, the whole storyline, I think, arguably, about the Bloodline has been about Sami and his kinship to the Usos. And obviously, finally having Jey Uso come round to his side and accept him as one of the members of the Bloodline. And he was the one who saved Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 30 as well. There's a lot of stuff tied to those as characters. And if now that Jay's gone off, it adds another little sort of cog into this whole scheme of what could be going on and potential swerves and what could happen. I mean, I could definitely see something happening at Elimination Chamber. It happens to everybody who the crowd are behind at Elimination Chamber. They're down on their luck. They've hit the bottom of the barrel. And what more then to come back at WrestleMania even stronger, have all the momentum behind you going into WrestleMania.
I mean, I'm gagging for Roman Reigns to take on Sami Zayn at WrestleMania, for Sami Zayn to do it and get the big one. But to set the table to make the tag team match make a lot of sense, obviously we had Jay not trusting Sami, Sami earning Jay's trust, Sami then bringing out the best in Jey Uso, which Jay took very much to heart, which is why, as we're sat here on Monday morning, he's out the bloodline. That's why he couldn't bring himself to kick Sami in the face after Sami had hit Roman with the chair. And also, if you look at the tag team titles and their importance to this sort of Samoan lineage, going all the way back to the Wild Samoans, they were the tag team champions of some form of fashion, and he come through with the Usos' dad, Rikishi, with the head shrinkers. He was a tag team champion. Obviously, the Usos are arguably, well, just in terms of stats, they are the greatest tag team of all time in WWE. So for Sami to then take the tag team titles off an Uso, I think that maybe is what they're going to go for in terms of like that big hook that makes people want to see it.
Yeah, I think even though sort of like the wrestling fan in me does want to see the Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn thing, absolutely, who doesn't want to see that, right? At the same time, yeah, I think there's a lot of emotion and emotional investment in the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens and the Usos thing, especially just with how all the stuff with Jimmy J and Sami has been playing out over the last few weeks. So yeah, it's very interesting. There's a lot of sort of things to factor in, I think, as well, in terms of you also have Cody Rhodes now, who's won the Royal Rumble.
He's just going to be over there. Hello, I'm still here, Roman.
Right?
Don't forget about me. I know you're preoccupied about your entire family. And
Yeah.
Jay, is he in your family? Is The Rock coming back? Is he still in the family? Is Sami Zayn still in the family? I know but I'm still here. How's that going to figure in?
How's that going to factor in? And then also, I guess as well, is the fact that sort of recently in an interview with Ariel Helwani, and I think some news reports and stuff as well, like WWE don't see Sami Zayn as the face of the company, but whilst I was thinking about this at the same time, if you've got Cody Rhodes there, and Cody Rhodes is the WWE champion, we saw in the pre-presser Royal Rumble event that like Cody is the perfect face of WWE right now, right? He can easily do that. Whereas then you've got Sami Zayn on the other side. Yeah, he might not be the face of the company, but at least he can hold a championship and then and do what he wants to do with it, maybe for a few months, 6 months, something like that. Like, you've got a face of the company in Cody Rhodes. That doesn't necessarily mean then that Sami can't go on and win the Universal
So that's the point he was making, was you've got obviously the face of the company, which is Roman Reigns, who goes on Jimmy Fallon and puts up with the fake knee slapping and all that sort of stuff. He's the outward face of the company, which sort of feeds into that notion that non-wrestling fans might have of professional wrestling, is that they need to look like Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns?
Roman Reigns.
The Range Rover, which obviously Sami Zayn does not, which in our eyes, obviously, who watch week to week, that is not a weakness at all. Professional wrestlers could come in all shapes and sizes.
Of course,
Mick Foley was in that role of, not face of the company, but he was appearing on these chat shows with his best-selling book in the late 90s and that sort of stuff. So you're stereotypical, you're not Hulk Hogan's of the world in terms of aesthetics. They can do that role, which, as Sami Zayn mentioned in that interview, he thinks he could do it in his sleep.
Yeah.
But it's that public perception, like from non-wrestling fans, that maybe will keep him from being the face of the company, but he can be the champion that is on TV every single week.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, it's also possibly... You got... There we go. I think also another thing on the flip side of that, though, as well, is that, yeah, you've got this guy in Cody Rhodes, like, phenomenal physique, right? Great person, great spokesperson for the company to be out there doing all the business side, or talking the business and getting everybody sort of invested in WWE. But then also you can get people invested in WWE with someone who just looks like an everyman in Sami Zayn.
And with Cody, he's after the WWE title, isn't he? Not the Universal title. He's after the one his dad held for a little bit in a house show or whatever, and then didn't hold, but he's got the picture above the mantle.
Yeah.
He's in that lineage. He's not in the Universal title. So
No.
you could, as Andrew was saying there, have Cody go after the WWE title on one night of WrestleMania, and then equally have Sami Zayn, maybe even on night two, because I think it's the one that more people are invested in, take down the tribal chief and win the big one.
And not to mention as well, the Universal Championship is the one that Roman Reigns has held for longer as well. I think there's a lot more sort of investment in Roman Reigns for that title.
Yeah.
He could easily, he could easily lose the WWE Championship and not care. Of course he'd care, but that's not the belt that he started this whole entire run with, is it? So I think there's a lot more investment in that championship, in him losing that championship as well. Whether that is to Sami Zayn, I don't know. I genuinely feel like it's been built up to be that. I think a lot of people are sort of hoping for that as well. But at the same time, as we were talking about there, sort of, there is a lot to put into a tag team championship run as well for Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn.
Yeah, it did feel like at the Rumble they were setting up certain matches for WrestleMania, like Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins now feels like a match that's going to happen after that elimination there. Obviously, Bobby versus Brock. There was one other, which I can't remember, but I'll just move on anyway. It feels like they were certainly setting Sami versus Roman. Yeah. They were setting the table for WrestleMania, and obviously going home, Vince McMahon would always say, famously, it's always the last thing people see that they remember. And what did they see the last at this show? It was Sami Zayn twatting the tribal chief in the back after being slapped around and made to feel like a bit of a worthless poo. So that's the match I think that people want to see. Does it count against Sami the fact that he isn't that big and it is in Los Angeles? Is this something that doesn't need to take into account?
We've seen this before.
But all the celebrities will be there.
That's true.
It'll not be like that WrestleMania with Lawrence Taylor and Pamela Anderson and all that sort of stuff, but they'll be there in the front row and seeing little Sami taking on Roman Reigns, because I do think it's a foregone just to say it again, it's a foregone conclusion almost in my mind that Cody will win a title at WrestleMania. But I think with Sami, there's the possibility there to have him challenge for the Universal title, lose, heartbreakingly so, in like spectacular fashion, as Roman Reigns has shown in the past he can do with numerous people, Jey Uso obviously included, and then have them go off on a series of matches over the rest of the year, maybe. I mean, Sami has chance and keeps earning his way and that sort of stuff. I think the investment's going to be there for the long haul with Sami.
I think there definitely is, but I can also see sort of in my mind at least as well, just already the visual of either Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn holding up the tag team titles, or the visual of Sami Zayn winning the championship at WrestleMania and then his friend coming out to raise his arm as well. I feel like this has got to culminate in some sort of big wholesome moment for Sami Zayn, who's sort of put everything into this storyline. From maybe a year or so ago, when nobody could really see Sami perhaps being in this sort of role.
No.
The stuff with, granted as well, like I loved the stuff with Johnny Knoxville. I thought Sami played into that perfectly well.
I think that was the turning point for like the not really like us, the hardcore.
Yeah.
The ones who didn't see like Sami in NXT and all that sort of stuff, and seeing this guy who's clearly can do anything at wrestling, being booked as a manager and not being allowed to wrestle. Not seeing that that's not what he should be doing. I think that, you know, that was the turning point for people who aren't in that bracket, that's saying this guy is really entertaining and he can do anything with anything he's given. And I think ever since that match at WrestleMania, which was one of the matches of 2022, he's just gone from strength to strength, and more people have got on board with him.
No, I absolutely agree as well. And I think at this point in time as well, and we've seen it before, sort of leading into the Elimination Chamber and with the match itself, with like Kofi Mania, with Daniel Bryan, if you don't capitalize on it now, then the fans are going to be very vocal about it. I think
another thing Sami said in that Ariel Helwani interview is that he didn't think he would be in this position if Triple H didn't take charge. Which is a crucial difference maker as well, because I do think Triple H, obviously, he made Sami Zayn the heart and soul of NXT back in 2015. He will see what's happened now, and surely he will try and make something massive of this. Yeah,
you'd think that, like, I mean, I think anything sort of involving Sami, Roman, the Bloodline in general is just money right now. It's the thing that people, I think, tune into WWE to see. Like, first and foremost, obviously there's other things going on in the company that are great as well, but at the same time, this is the thing that I think has captivated people for the longest time. And he's a smart guy, is our Paul. He's a smart guy. I think he genuinely will really capitalize on it as well. But whether that is for the Universal Championship involving Sami and Roman or the tag team titles, I'm not too sure. What do you definitively see happening?
I was going to say Triple H as well. It doesn't appear to be as stubborn a booker. Like, when things aren't quite working, he seems like to pull things back.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, he would have maybe imagined when Johnny Gargano arrived, for example, he would be in the main event picture of Raw just straight away, because obviously the history in NXT and whatnot. But I think obviously injuries played a part. Obviously, I've got to mention that as well. But he's seen it's not quite landing with Johnny in this role, so he's got a reduced role, hasn't he, on Raw?
Yeah, and
he's not being thrusted straight into the title picture.
And I think that's been the thing with quite a few of the NXT stars as well, is that they've sort of been pulled back. I think the crowd reaction, it's a different thing altogether, isn't it? You can be big in NXT and then come to the main roster. Maybe not a lot of people watch NXT. Maybe people don't really know who this person is, and I think you've seen that through the Bloodline storyline in terms of the slow burn this has had, and where Sami was perhaps a mid-carder at the point of him sort of stepping into this role with the Bloodline and stuff. People might have just been like, Sami, he's great on TV and whatever, but he's not like main event material or anything at the moment within WWE. But I think from what we've seen and the whole build and where this has gone, it's the investment and the believability of this person can go on to do this great thing. And I think Triple H sees that in spades.
Yeah, it felt like if Vince was in charge now with the way the table's been laid out, he'd be like, Cody's winning at Mania, and that's what's going to happen. Whereas I think Triple H listens to the crowd more. But in terms of laying things out how I think they'll go, I think there'll be some sort of trial of Jey Uso. Even though he's definitively said, I'm gone, there'll be some sort of like, because I think Roman would still want him because, you know, family and all that sort of stuff. So I think we'll get some sort of segment like that. Then I think that show in Montreal is so pivotal because of the two ways they can go. They can either go down the route of Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns, or Kevin Owens getting involved, or Jey Uso getting involved, or maybe even both of them getting involved. But I do think either way, heartbreakingly so, Sami Zayn will lose in Montreal. But the crowd is going to be amazing for that show. They always are. Up in Bizarro Land.
Land.
That's what they used to say on Raw back in the day, where the heels get cheered and the baby faces get booed.
I mean, what I think you've hit the nail on the head. I mean, we've seen it a few times at Elimination Chamber where the favorite is down and out. As I said before, they've hit they've hit rock bottom, no pun intended there, and just all then leads to going into WrestleMania with the utmost momentum you could possibly want.
Mentioning The Rock there as well, just with the rock bottom. It's a really good thing he wasn't there at the end of the Rumble.
I think so too. I feel like it would have taken away from everything that had happened at that moment.
Every headline, whether it be the media outlets who just sort of report on the big shows of the company that they do, and everything in between. I just think every single headline would have been about The Rock returning, rather than this moment where there was the call back to Seth Rollins turning on Roman and Dean Ambrose in the Shield, doing the same thing with the chair to the back of Roman, who should stop turning his back in such segments, shouldn't he? That's twice it's happened now. All the headlines would have been about The Rock rather than this pivotal moment, which now we're going to be talking about, rightfully so, forevermore, because it was that good. It was. You can't do anything better, can you, in that segment? I was thinking about this morning in terms of Sami sort of teasing, going the other way, and just scuppering Roman, just hampering him, just Will Wazzling him, turning on him, all the words, that means, going the other way.
Yeah.
And also in terms of Sami being very conflicted, the Usos getting involved. Jay's part was the bit which I didn't see coming, and I thought that was the moment where it went from, a great segment to an all-time, great segment.
And that's another thing, I guess, as well, is sort of maybe, yes, you might have seen this coming and maybe it was predictable, but they always throw in something like that, like the Jay thing where you're like, wow, I wasn't expecting that.
And it all makes sense, especially that little segment on SmackDown made the biggest difference. Like Jay just saying, you brought out the good in me and need a favor and all that sort of stuff. But I think that's where it's going to boil down to, is Sami versus Jay is the main sort of focal point of the entire feud. And I think it has been that the entire way. We haven't just really realised it yet, and I think that whatever happens between now and Elimination Chamber, or even that Elimination Chamber itself, will hammer home the fact it'll be Sami versus Jay, and then Sami will want to take those tag team titles off Jay and Jimmy.
And that's the thing as well, is that thanks to this slow build and everything as well, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Sami would want to go and do that. No. I think, as we were saying before, that this whole Bloodline thing feels very much like it's centered around not just Roman Reigns, but more Sami and his loyalty to Jay and Jimmy more than anything. He's always there, tag matches. He's subbed in when Jimmy was hurt on Raw 30 to help retain the titles. I think there's a lot more emotional investment between those characters than perhaps
now
there is
Roman's
with Roman.
buggered it.
Yeah.
Roman's buggered it now. There's no way back with him and Sami after pie face and all that sort of stuff. But with Jimmy and Jay, I think Jay can be brought around, but I don't think he will be. No. I think he'll stay loyal to Roman Reigns. Solo, I think, is definitely loyal to Roman Reigns, just because that little bit right at the end of the Rumble where the show was going off the air, Roman's looking just wistfully down at the ring, a couple of dead bodies in the ring, him going now we're at war, we're taking no prisoners, which I think was a reference to Jey Uso, which I think maybe where a trial-esque segment will come into it, but I think some sort of punishment for Jey Uso will come into it, maybe a stripping of his Uso title. Ooh. He could just be called Jay. He's lost his Uso. He's not very Uso anymore, but I think Solo is very much loyal to Roman, so I don't think there's any danger of that changing. It comes down to Jay, doesn't it? Which way will they go with Jay, which will then affect which way they go with Sami?
That's why the storyline's so... I don't think I've been invested, and I think I can probably speak for a lot of people as well. I don't think anyone's been this invested in a WWE storyline in a very, very long time. And everything that they've done, everything that they've pieced together has been so wonderfully done, to the point where we will be talking about this for a long time. It'll be in the annals of WWE history for many, many, many years to come.
Rightfully so after that reaction, because that sounded like a bloody aeroplane engine when he hit him with a chair.
It did.
Absolutely fantastic. I think we've covered all the bases. Did he stick your neck on the line? Where you think where it's going to go in your opinion?
I think my neck on the line, I think, is very similar to what you said there. I think there's going to be something involving Jay at the Elimination Chamber. We're probably going to get maybe the one-on-one match between Sami and Roman Reigns. Maybe Jimmy is on the side of Roman, as Jay maybe might be nowhere to be seen for a few weeks perhaps. And then later down the line, he comes out during the match and it's seemingly on Sami's side, but then no. And I know that sounds very simple. That sounds like basic bitch simple stuff. But at the same time, I think they've demonstrated that sometimes the most simple stuff is the best.
But that's also the most complicated part for me, just to bring it round, because Jay has left the Bloodline. If he is going to go back into the Bloodline to fight alongside Jimmy, what's going to be that thing that triggers that? I don't know.
I mean, it could be the simple fact that, Roman goes around saying that he's the one who puts the food on the table for everybody. He provides for everybody. And it could just be the simple fact of, maybe Roman is somehow keeping him hostage and maybe being like, well, if you don't do this, if you're not with the bloodline, then you're out, and what have you got left?
Well, he loses tag team titles,
Yeah.
loses Uso.
That's it. He loses his Uso.
That's the thing, though. It could go anyway. Let us know down below what you think will happen here on out for Sami Zayn between now and WrestleMania. As much as I want to see him win the title, I think that tag team title match can make a lot of sense once we all realise that it is now. It always has been, I guess, Jay versus Sami and not Sami versus Roman. Oh, it's interesting.
Oh, it is very interesting.
I tell you what, we're so invested we came down here without a script. That's just riffed
Yeah, it's been nice.
Top of our heads for 25 minutes.
I can't believe it's been 25 minutes. It's nice just to like riff and just talk about this because it's so nice to talk about something and be really excited about it as well in wrestling. I think for a few years at least, it was when we were talking about WWE and stuff, it might not have been in the best light, but I think recently, especially with this, it's refreshing.
Just shows you that when wrestling's good, it is good.
It is good,
and we will say it is good. And when it's bad, we'll say it's bad.
We
but
will.
now it's good. Let us know what you think about the future for Sami Zayn down in the comments down below. Let us know about your thoughts on the Royal Rumble final closing segment as well, involving Jay, involving Jimmy, involving Solo, involving The Rock potentially. He wasn't there. Involving that also. How will Cody Rhodes factor into this? We have no idea. Oh my God, it's good. I'm rambling now. But I've been Ross Tweddell from Cultaholic Wrestling. He's been Andrew. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you whenevs.
Bye.